New overnight, Ukraine claims it's gaining ground in its counteroffensive. A top defense official says Ukrainian forces are advancing near the captured city of Bakhmut and have retaken around 12 square miles over the past week. This is new video of a Russian tank you can see here being destroyed near that city. Now, Russia unleashed another wave of drones on Ukraine overnight after striking Kyiv for the first time in nearly 2 weeks over the weekend. Now, in an exclusive sit-down interview with CNN's Aaron Burnett, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says last weekend's mercenary rebellion inside Russia shows Vladimir Putin is weak and his grip on power is crumbling.
Mr. President, you recently said that you have dealt, and I'll quote you the way it quoted, with different Putins. It's a completely different set of traits in different periods. Now, of course, he's faced a rebellion, an attempted coup from Evgeny Prigozhin. Have you seen any changes in how you think he's acting, in his behavior since the attempted coup?
Yes, we see the reaction after certain Wagner steps. We see Putin's reaction. It's weak. Firstly, we see he doesn't control everything. Wagner's moving deep into Russia and taking certain regions shows how easy it is to do. Putin doesn't control the situation in the regions. He doesn't control the security situation. All of us understand that his whole army is in Ukraine. Almost entire army is there. That's why it's so easy for the Wagner troops to march through Russia. Who could have stopped them? We understand that Putin doesn't control the regional policy, and he doesn't control all those people in the regions. So all that vertical of power he used to have just got crumbling down.
Do you believe he's fully in charge of the military right now when it comes to your front line and this counteroffensive? Do you believe Putin is fully in charge of the Russian military?
I don't think he fully controls all the processes. He gives orders to the commanders. It's understood. They are scared to lose their jobs, but he doesn't understand and doesn't control the middle layer of the Russian military, nor the lower rank officers and soldiers.
Also new overnight, the Kremlin claims it foiled a car bomb assassination plot against the Russian-backed leader of Crimea. Now, in his interview with Aaron Burnett, Zelensky said the war in Ukraine won't be over until Crimea is back under Ukrainian control.
We cannot imagine Ukraine without Crimea. And while Crimea is under the Russian occupation, it means only one thing: war is not over yet.
To be clear, in victory, in peace, is there any scenario where Crimea is not part of Ukraine?
It will not be victory then.
I know the U.S. CIA Chief Bill Burns has come and visited you regularly. He was here recently. What did you tell him about your plans to take back territory in the counteroffensive?
To be honest with you, I was surprised to see the information in some media, both in the U.S. and Ukrainian and European media. My communication with the CIA chief should always be behind the scenes, and the media attention because we discuss important things, what Ukraine needs and how Ukraine is prepared to act. We don't have any secrets from CIA because we have good relations, and our intelligence services talk with each other. I don't know what were other contacts. I don't really remember which media I read it in. The situation is pretty straightforward. We have good relations with the CIA chief, and we are talking. I told him about all the important things related to the battlefield, which we need.
And you can watch Aaron's full interview with Ukrainian President Zelensky Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Now, you heard President Zelensky talking about his secret face-to-face meeting with the head of the CIA. So let's bring in CNN national security reporter Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, this was a fascinating development. It wasn't public when it happened. I think our Jim Sciutto and you have been reporting on it. Do we have any idea what they talked about during the sit-down?
Yeah, so we have some sense from a U.S. official basically reaffirming that Bill Burns did make this trip to Kyiv, as he has many times before, including as recently that we know of in January. And according to this U.S. official, Bill Burns reiterated the U.S.'s commitment to intelligence sharing with Zelensky. Now, according to Zelensky himself, he did say that he shared information about the battlefield and about Ukraine's counteroffensive with Burns, as well as what Ukraine actually needs in order to be successful role in that counteroffensive. But look, Burns has been somewhat of an emissary throughout this entire war for the Biden administration, not only to Ukraine, but also to Russia. And he has been taking full advantage of the trust that the president has placed in him and his deep knowledge, of course, of Russia, of Ukraine, to play a really important role here, not only in serving as kind of a diplomatic, of course, emissary between the countries, but also, of course, sharing U.S. intelligence with the Ukrainians about what they know about the Russian plans on the battlefield, for example. And just this weekend, Bill Burns, he was speaking in England, and he said that this is actually a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the CIA in terms of recruitment, just because of the level of disaffectment that they have seen by the Russians with Putin's war in Ukraine and with his leadership writ large. Here's what he said.
Disaffection with the war will continue to gnaw away at the Russian leadership. That disaffection creates a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us at CIA. We're very much open for business.
So the U.S. has been sharing quite a bit of intelligence with the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians don't always share as much intel with the U.S. Because, of course, of that big leak that we saw of classified Pentagon documents. They have been a little bit more wary to share intel with the U.S. But the U.S. still trying to do what it can, of course, to give Ukraine the information it needs to be successful.
Ukraine is reporting heavy fighting along the entire eastern front, with Russian forces attacking in several directions and making some advances. But Ukrainian officials say their forces are having partial success south of Bakhmut. They posted this video showing what appears to be a strike on a Russian tank in the region. And Ukraine says it's gradually advancing along the southern front lines around Berdyansk and Melitopol. Claire Sebastian joins us now to discuss some of the latest lines coming out of this conflict. Claire, let's start with a rather startling statement that we had from Grigory Karasin, who's a Russian member of parliament, who has said that 700,000 Ukrainian children are now in Russian territory as a result of Russia's invasion, which I just had a quick look at the statistics. That would make it about 10% of under 18s in Ukraine.
I mean, look, it's strange. This number is startlingly high, orders of magnitude higher than the 19,500 children that President Zelensky said Russia had illegally deported as of early June. He also said they've brought some 371 back. He doesn't offer any evidence. He then proceeds to use this as a way of accusing Ukraine of mistreating, he says, Ukrainian teenagers in the southeast of the country. He does say that this was in recent years. The timeline is kind of vague. Some of it might have happened before the actual all-out invasion of Ukraine. And he says that this was part of a program to protect orphans, children abandoned in the war zone, and that they include, in some cases, their parents and the caregivers if they were at orphanages. But this is really important to watch because obviously there is evidence that this is happening, enough evidence to, frankly, indict the president of the country. The president of Russia, Putin, was indicted in March along with his children's rights commissioner. And particularly important to watch as we see Ukraine take another potential step towards justice in this war. In the next hour, there will be opening an international center in The Hague to investigate the crime of aggression. This is a leadership crime, looking at the potential decisions that led to the invasion itself. This is the type of crime that really has not been prosecuted in any way since the Nuremberg trials after the Second World War. This isn't the tribunal itself, but it is perhaps a step on the path to that for a tribunal for Russia's leaders as a result of this war.
But what power does something like that have? It just seems like there's depressingly little muscle behind any of these international institutions, or perhaps even the launching of this new international centre in The Hague at this time while the conflict is active and all of the officials involved are in Russian territory or in the war zone.
You know, I think that is ultimately what came to mind when you see this comment from this Russian lawmaker saying 700,000 people. Why would you come out with that comment when your president has been indicted, when there's clearly evidence that this is happening and that the world sees this as a war crime? I think there is an understanding in Russia that there's not very much that can be done to actually reach the leadership of the country itself, but it would be very important symbolically for Ukraine to get this off the ground.
Claire Sebastian, thank you so much.